how can you still nowadays with, $1,000 phone that takes phenomenal pictures, still mess that up?
Ross Bridges here with Andrew ROACH. We are here to help you find your way home. This is part 2 of our investment series. Andrew and I were just having I wouldn't say heated. It was a good discussion on logistics and time. Time is arguably the most important thing we have, and our energy. And we were just talking a little bit about, getting spread too thin between cities, right? So, for example, sometimes your clients might be moving a little further out of town. And one of the things that we're very blessed to both have is one of the strongest relocation networks, not only in Ontario, but across Canada. And as we continue, for investors, if you're thinking about getting a little further out of town, then connect with Andrew ROACH or myself, Ross Bridges, and we'll be happy to contact you with other realtors. I am going to plug Top Realtors Canada. It's a network I created during the start of the pandemic this time last year, and we have some of the strongest agents from across Canada. Andrew, we should probably just make you the guy for Milton, because Milton's currently available. So I don't see why we don't just throw you in there.
Absolutely. We never talked about that, right? We never got that up and running. Yeah. So we were chatting a little bit about, making sure that when somebody is moving out of our area, right, that we're connecting those people with, a high quality professional, full-time real estate agent, right? That like a top agent. And we didn't talk about this, but hey, this is one of the things that it's a bone of contention that I have with our industry. The dark secret about the real estate industry is like 80% or more of real estate agents, registered agents, are part-time. Part-timers, right? Go to work 9 to 5, right? Do your commute. I mean, there's not so much commuting nowadays, but yeah, there still is for some, right? Get home, have dinner with the kids, and then it's 9 o'clock and they're now trying to find you a house or trying to book a showing for the weekend. Or, I get a call on, I don't know, Tuesday morning, trying to scramble to get their clients into a property that we listed last Thursday because they hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, where have you been?
Let's call it how it is. Okay, so we talk about how much time do you and I put into our business. Do you want someone who's going to be buying their largest asset for it to be their side hustle, where they're hustling around, they're dealing with their kids, they're like, oh, I'm going to find you 2 or 3 properties, right, and maybe you'll buy one of them? No, there's quite a bit more that goes into it than just going to show a couple homes.
Well, absolutely. I mean, geez, I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole necessarily, but like just the lack of professionalism that you and I see with other agents, like it's like it's like they're clueless. It's like they've never shown a house ever in their lives before, and they have no idea what they're doing. And it's like legit. And then they're like, I've had my license for 7 years. I'm like, yeah. And is this the 7th home you've shown?
I gotta be honest. In my neck of the woods, like the Oakville Burlington corridor, I gotta say there's some of the most classy agents that I've worked with.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Yeah, there's a lot of great agents out there, right?
There's exceptions to the rule, right? We've both seen some shit shows along the way. We've seen some like, what, are you kidding me? Like, you're actually sending that as an offer, or like certain things where they just shouldn't go. But the class, the actual professionalism that we see, like, I'd like to think that you and I set the standards as up and coming agents. We're both established at this point in our career, that this is why we're doing this show, is to create an even higher standard for the way that we carry ourselves and looking out for our clients' best interests.
Well, and absolutely. And to, to give back, to educate, to share the experience and the knowledge that we've gained over the last decade. I ran into a guy yesterday when we were, prepping a place that we're staging today, right? So we were grabbing all of our staging supplies, and he was driving by. He stopped, recognized our truck. We've got a branded truck. I had met him at a client's house. He's a contractor, and he stopped and he said, "Hey, do you remember me? I met you at Gloria's place." And I'm like, "Yeah, how's it going?" So we chatted for a little bit. he let me know that he had just passed our name along because Gloria had spoken so highly of us. So I thanked him profusely. It was very kind. And then we just started talking about the market, and it's one of those things, Ross, like you and I are immersed in this, and sometimes you almost expect everyone to know it. And what I'm getting to is the strategy of intentionally list below market value, and oftentimes by a substantial sum, in order to be able to drive that frenzy, create a bidding war, and then hopefully auction mentality takes over and the house will sell for higher, right? And we're easily a year into this, and we've already seen it in past markets, 2017, 2016, right? But he still didn't necessarily understand. He didn't know that properties are intentionally listed below market value.
Let me hold you there for 1 second, just for the everyday consumer on why do we do that as realtors, right? There's a few reasons. Okay, so a lot of clients that we will go out with will be very frustrated. Will say, well, why aren't homes priced where they should be? Why aren't they priced, exactly where they should be selling? Well, at the end of the day, we're in marketing. We have to drive as many people to the property as possible, because if it is overlisted or if it's listed high, your target audience is considerably lower. So you might be looking at 25-30% of an audience, versus if you bring the bar down a little bit, then you're going to attract a much larger audience. So I just wanted to break there for a second, Andrew, just for people listening to the podcast on why homes are set there, because the goal is to attract that 90+% of the audience.
Yeah, and again, thanks for kind of clarifying that. And I mean, I've had this discussion so many times. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of factors at play. That is not my favorite strategy. I don't like it personally. I would much sooner, have market value established, set it at market value. We put a lot into our properties. Our properties show significantly better than the average realtor. Again, we'll go back and say that, the average realtor is a part-time agent, right? So they're basically just, do it as cheaply as possible, because listen, that's their vacation money for the year, or that's like their car payment for the year. So they're just I'll take anything. It doesn't matter. I'm going to throw a sign on the lawn. I'm going to go in there with, a nice cell phone at best for pictures. Dude, like, I'm going to go on a squirrel hunt here, but, fuzzy pictures. I'm like, how can you still nowadays with, $1,000 phone that takes phenomenal pictures still mess that up? And you got a blurred picture and then you put that up as that's your first impression. That's your like, yeah, here we go. So they stick a sign on the lawn. Anyways, I digress. We put a lot into our properties, right? And we will establish what market value and we'll push it. Okay. Like if market value, I'm just going to make these numbers up for arbitrary sake here. Like, okay. I was going to say 9, but we'll go to the million, right? So if it's $1 million, then we'll say, okay, we're going to push it to $1,040,000, right? And that's where we're going to establish market value, right? And we're going to set that, and we're going to try to hold to it, and we're going to try to sell for 100% of asking, right? Nowadays, I can't do that now. I cannot do that, because if I do, I A, don't get the showings, or B, don't get the offers, because A, or maybe C, whatever, part 2 of this is that agents won't show it because it's out of your price limit. Actually, I almost should have flipped it the other way around. Buyers are conditioned to say, I have to spend $100,000 more than asking. So if their budget is $1 million, they're not looking at anything higher than 900 as an example.
Sure, yeah,
right? Yeah. So they've capped at 900, and I'm listed at $1 million. Yes, they can afford it, but they don't see it, because if they list it at $1 million, then they expect, well, I got to pay $1.1 million or $1.2 million, and I can't afford that. So I'm looking at 850 to 9, right? So I have to list it low, right? And then, like I said, then the agents will set the bar, will set the threshold limit to say, okay, well, I'll only send you properties at not 850 or 9. So we're kind of like, we're pulled into it, and you see it statistically. You'll see the odd agent try to list it properly, and it's on the market.
And you also think about, you're telling your clients, okay, we are going to send you some properties a little bit higher. Look at days on market. Look at when offer dates come and go. Few and far between, but we are seeing it happen more, which is encouraging to the sense that, prices have climbed so drastically, so quickly that things are actually starting to cool a little bit. So you're still seeing a lot of attention on properties. And, my phone's been ringing a lot. We've got 3 listings coming on in the next couple weeks, like very, very close to each other. And it's people selling their investment properties. It's people downsizing. It's, I anticipate that there's going to be a lot of homes coming on the market in the next couple months. So, there's, not that there's still going to be tremendous demand. We just went over 38 million people in Canada. Okay. We should probably already be at 45, approaching 50.
I didn't see that number. How did we just increase? Aren't the borders closed? Where's people coming from?
Well, maybe just it's called reproduction.
Was it catch up? Was it catch up doing stats from last year?
I'm sure there's been some babies booming, right?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but don't people die? Aren't we at a negative population growth?
Still a slight increase on babies to death ratio.
Is there? Okay. You know what? I should have looked at that, but thanks for educating me.
We just went over 38 million. I check it out on Worldometer, where I also get my similar COVID numbers. So it's nice to know what's going on from a global perspective, right? But we are doing this as an investment show. And I think that the reality is another thing that I'm seeing, new builds are selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
New builds, like the demand, it's like calling or finding new builds. Oh, this one's sold out. This one's sold out. Right. So, where you live, and we talked about how Milton is blowing up, right? It will eventually probably just as big, if not bigger than Mississauga, like in terms of maybe not densification, but in terms of like,
geographical area. Well, they say long-term projections is 400,000, right? Yeah. So it will be the largest municipality in Halton region. And I think Mississauga is 750 right now, 800?
At least, yeah. I don't even know what Mississauga's population. I thought it was probably getting closer to 1 million, but
is it? Where's our where Joe Rogan's got this like side guy here that just like looks up stats for him. Where's our side guy?
We need that.
Yeah, geez.
Well, maybe one day. Well, it gives us something to aspire to. But and then Oakville, Burlington, my neck of the woods, I think the population is going to double. I remember for the longest time, the town of Oakville was stuck at 99,000 people.
Yeah.
And I think that both Oakville and Burlington are both approaching around 200,000 each.
Yeah, right? Well, Oakville's pretty much out of land, right? So I don't know how much more they can grow outside of population density.
North of Dundas.
Yeah, but even still, Milton comes all the way down. Right? There's some land there, but you don't got much more. Sorry, dude.
No, dairy, it's all a little bit of farmland, and we're going to see that in our lifetime. That is going to fill in.
Yeah.
From, Milton, Mississauga, it's going to come right down. We look at like Alton Village, that's going to bleed right up to where you are, right? We see what's happening right south of Derry, right? So
yeah. So should we jump into part 2 of this of this investor series here? I know we always seem to open with this tangent that gets us way off topic, but it's always fun too.
Well, for people out there like us that enjoy tangents, I'm sure they love
it. For sure. So last episode, if you didn't catch it, go back and listen to it. We talked about like types of investment properties, right? Because again, to recap, somebody gives us a call, says, hey, Andrew, I want to buy an investment property. Sometimes they might not even give me a budget, right? Just let me know. Let me know what you find. Okay. So, last episode we talked about
500,000.
Right. It's single family house, right? Is that a freehold? Is it a condo? You want something small. What's your client type? Or your tenant type that you're looking for. Student rentals. Is it a flip? Is it a BRRRR, which is a buy, renovate, refinance, repeat, right? Something basically a flip and hold. Do you want to is it going to be a long-term hold? Are you going to multifamily, like I think I said student rental already, right? Is it going to be like a commercial building? Anything over 5 units flips into commercial financing, it's a different animal altogether. You're looking for a duplex, triplex, right? So we kind of talked extensively about all those types of investment properties. This show, we kind of wanted to talk about, okay, so now you've decided the type of property that you want to buy. Let's talk about areas, right? Location. Where would be a good area to buy now that you've decided what you want to buy, what you're looking for? What would be a good area to focus on, right? The biggest things that you want to be looking for as far as an investment property area is going to be that growth, right? I mean, cash flow is great. We love cash flow, and cash flow is important. However, cash flow will never beat great appreciation, right? And of course, if you can get both, well, I mean, geez, that's just magic, right? So how do you find an area that's going to appreciate better than another area, right? We look at supply demand. What will increase demand higher than normal? So some big factors there will be population growth in the area, and in order to be able to get population growth in the area, you need job growth in the area. So local GDP is increasing, access to the area through transit. So that could be 401 expansion, could be a new, 407, 413, could be your fictitious bullet train that you keep talking about that you think is coming tomorrow.
Whoa. Tomorrow. Like I think I'm talking like 15, 20 years from now. But
so you said 50 to 70 years from now. Is that what you said?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it is going to be logistics. I think it's really cool, like Highway 413. I was looking at that even before the show started. As long as it's not interfering with too much farmland and it's staying away from the green belts, I think as a province, we need to be extra careful with being more environmentally friendly. But I couldn't agree more with what you just said. I mean, we're looking at trends. Things where, and then we can go back to community. We've all heard the term location a million times, but I go back to community. I go back to bordering lines, like for example, on the border of Oakville, Burlington. I see Elizabeth Gardens in South Burlington is going to be booming in the months and years ahead. We look to schools. You and I have talked about that before. Proximity to the water. So there's going to be a ton of things that's going to set apart. We look at the 401 expansion, how it went out your way, like what they did, the Cambridge, Kitchener, the demand for that. Let's face it, the Toronto business corridor in the next few months, year, there's going to be a lot more people going to the city, right? This law break where we've all been working from home, I mean, it's been great for us. Time. I go back to the issue of time. From an employee standpoint, I hope there's a lot of businesses out there that realize the advantage of how much time and energy we are saving. Those are our biggest resources from a human element. How can we save that so that we are, I'm going off topic a little bit here.
That is unlike you. I apologize, but it's strange that you're going to do that.
But at the end of the day, there is going to be a lot more business going back to the business corridor. We're going to see the condos start booming from an investment standpoint. It's going to expand still at the suburbs. Like, the fish will eventually swim back stream. So if you grew up in Oakville, Burlington, and you moved to the city, maybe you're going to want to go out to the suburbs and think years ahead. Part of the reason we're doing this, and we talked a lot about this the last couple episodes, is your vision, your dreams, right? We are here to help you with your dreams and your vision. But I think you can go to any local city and we can start looking at the zoning, the planning, the classification of properties and envision what a city's going to look like 5, 10, 15 years from now when there's those cool trains come through.
You say trends or trains?
Well, I said trains, but trends as well.
Hey, I think that would be cool, but honestly, dude, we're not seeing that in our lifetime. Not in our government. Doesn't matter whether it's a liberal or conservative government. That's just not happening. In my personal opinion, it would be lovely. I think it would, but there's too much red tape, too much bureaucracy, too many opinions, and it's too long of a project, right? Too many. I don't know. There's going to be too many bids coming in, and then the next government comes in and squashes it, and I don't want, that was their idea, so I'm going to change it and cancel it so it can be my idea. It's too much of that, right?
Okay, I'm just gonna fight you on that for 1 second. Okay,
Okay,
so
fight
as
me.
an optimist, okay, I think that it's gonna save you two things, right? It's gonna save time. If there is an opportunity where you can travel from Niagara Falls to Toronto, and
Oh,
it's time efficient,
I'm not debating that it's a good idea.
and I agree with you, it could take a lot of time, and I couldn't agree more with you in terms of going through the political stance that it could take many different political parties switching hands.
Yeah, I just think that our politicians are incompetent when it comes to actually making a good, solid, long-term decision for for the benefit of Ontarians.
Well, maybe we start a petition in the coming months, and this is something we work to by like 2030. You know,
That would be wonder if I believe that an actual petition was going to actually make a difference, right? It just it doesn't, man. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm cynical, but it just
or a realist.
maybe, maybe. I honestly, I think that's just it's a nice, pretty sweet idea, and that's the extent of it, right? At the end of the, let's look. I mean, okay, we're totally off topic here, but let's look at
My other issue is environment as well too,
yes.
and where we talk about the 413 and expansion, and we are going back to investment properties, but I think this is what the people need to know, right? This is planning for the future with logistics, and we're talking about trends. We're talking about all these things. These are the areas that we want to be investing in for land, and we didn't really we touched on it last episode, but land is a juicy investment, whether you're using it for crops or there's a existing property on there, or you could build something, rent it out. Land is a tangible asset, something you can take the dirt from the ground, and a little bit better than paper from your stocks or even Bitcoin, heaven forbid.
Well, and the thing that I love always saying is, if there's one thing they're not making any more of, it's land,
There you go.
right?
I joke that it's the last gold rush we have, right? So
Right. Well, so yeah, buy up the land. The challenging thing about land is the cost to carry it, right? It doesn't do anything. It's not too unlike gold, right? It doesn't pay you a dividend. It doesn't work for you. It's just a hard asset that you hold on to, and you hope that it appreciates. You know the you know the risk, I suppose, with owning land is, yeah, you got tax dollars on it. Unless you have a boatload of money that you're going to plop down that you're not going to have working for you better somewhere else. You're carrying a mortgage on it. You with raw land, generally speaking, you have to have at least 50% down, right?
nice.
You're not likely going to go to your bank and get a straight up mortgage for raw land. Oftentimes, you're going to a credit union or a farmer's type credit union or type lender. And then, like I said, so you got the mortgage carrying costs. If you're going to have a mortgage, you got your taxes, and maybe it's forested. The taxes will be relatively low given that there's no improvement on it. However, there's still going to be taxes on it. So you just have to be prepared for that. That's one of those long-term buys. And then furthermore, if you are going to do that, then do extensive research into what the long-term plans are for a municipality, right? Because, and I don't want to scare anybody here, but it's a reality. Heaven forbid another Greenbelt Act comes in and your land. I mean, you think of all the farmers or investors that had farmland all throughout the Greenbelt. And in 1998, that was worth millions. And in 1999, it was worth tens of thousands, right?
So many restrictions, what you can do on that. I mean, I love what you just said there about going to your local town council, finding out what's going on for the future development. I know there's a new business quarter they're building in North Burlington, which is going to be enticing a lot for more commercial. So light industrial land. Now you can put banks there. Now you can put restaurants. You can put car dealerships. There's going to be large commercial buildings that are going to be able to bring there for driving more business, right? So, I mean, look at the boom. I remember Milton for my first 5, 6, 7 years in real estate. Milton was just the quickest building city. It felt like every year, just it was crazy the amount of development going up in Milton.
Well, it was the fastest growing community in Canada for, I think, 3 straight census, right? So what do they do? That they do a census every 4 or 5 years, right? Every 5 years, whatever. Anyways, right? So like call it 15 years. It was the fastest growing community in Canada. And I think it only fell to number 2 last time. And I think for some area out in Alberta potentially, but that's because, I mean, obviously when you're growing from, 30,000 people to 50,000 people, the population number isn't significant, but percentage based, it is significant, right? But so if you're growing from 100,000 people to 130,000 people, or 150,000 people, it's the same number, but it's a lower percentage growth, right? So anyway,
on you as the investor, and we're talking to all you out there now, to all you amazing people listening, is we want to figure out, first of all, like what makes the most sense to you, right? Like in terms of today, we're going to talk about like, the type, the area, do a little property analysis, and we're trying to give a huge overview, but again, it'll come down to budget 100%. It'll come down to carrying costs. It'll come down to your risk. And then I think like what we just talked about, what you mentioned and what we talked about before is if you do your homework and you have an idea of what's going to be coming available, the future of the development for your cities, then that's going to set you up huge, like in terms of where you're going to want to be short term and long term.
absolutely. Further to that, as you dive into the information that you're finding from the municipality, from the region, even, right? Don't be afraid to go up a level and say, okay, because the thing is, the regional level will have, how do all the cities or towns kind of like intertwined in there, right? You get your regional roads, right? Like areas, those major roads that move between cities or towns, right? The town will have, or the city will have information on that, but the region will have kind of like bigger or longer term plans, et cetera, right? So go regional, go municipal, and then go down to a neighborhood and drive the neighborhood, right? Walk the neighborhood. Is there, gentrification? And if you're not familiar with that term, it's like, it's when a kind of a dirty rundown area starts cleaning itself up, right? When you start seeing, spray paint and plywood windows go away, when people start whether it's homeowners like redoing their deck, and you see dumpsters out front everywhere because people are doing extensive renovations, landscaping is happening again. You go into like the major streets or like the downtown strips, and the strip clubs aren't on the main strip anymore, right? The shops are cleaned up nicer. The town or the city has redone like the street signs into like an artistic feel, and it looks nice. If the town or the city is giving grants to businesses to help improve the storefronts, a number of municipalities have done that in the past. Anywhere from like a small town like Gananoque, which is just outside of Kingston in the Thousand Islands, to downtown Hamilton, to any number of areas where the municipality, like I said, is given grants. So they'll say, okay, well, if you're going to go and spend, and I'm just going to make up numbers, I don't know exactly what, because it's an application, right? But if you're going to spend 100,000 on your place, we'll give you a grant of 20,000, right, or something like that. So you spend some money, and we'll spend some money, right? And so everybody chimes in, everybody chips in, and cleans up the area. And then over a 5-year period, it's massive change. And then you start seeing the little artisan shops popping in, and you see the microbreweries with the nice patios, and and there's this cultural kind of like feel, especially in the summer times. I love being, in a downtown busy type of area in the summer where the patios are open, and you walk around, there's shops and such, right? Like, I mean, I know how I feel right now just thinking about it. Maybe the listeners and yourself, Roz, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you go down and the area is cleaned up and it's fun to be in, it's like, let's go, even if you're just going to go for a walk, let's go walk downtown.
I love what you just said. I mean, and where I'm thinking right now, I'm thinking like places like Kitchener, Waterloo. I'm thinking Hamilton. I mean, I like to think there's been some tremendous trends and that improvements of transportation in those areas, and then the future infrastructure. There's a lot more people moving out there, seeing the value, seeing the understanding. I mean, I think that is what we all dream of, is to have that gentrification where we're seeing our communities all improve and we're creating that community sense. For me, one of the other things that I love more than anything in real estate, for what I love, is to find those older neighborhoods. And I think of certain pockets in Oakville, Southwest Oakville, Elizabeth Gardens, where I'm looking at the decline of these older homes, and they got these big, beautiful, sprawling lots. And we're looking at this is where the builders come to play, right? Where you could be looking at that future progression, where you're seeing a lot of these older homes where people are going to be like, I'm going to buy that older home, I'm going to rent that out for the next 4 or 5 years, and then I'm going to build my dream home. And I think there's nothing more beautiful than having that vision and knowing you can sit on that property, whether it's 3, 5, 10 years, and eventually you're going to be able to put up something pretty fantastic there. So, there's so many areas that are like that right now. And even though, yeah, lot value is going up, you can find tremendous value, and that's progression, right? We want to see progression in our communities, in our neighborhoods. I mean, I think about where I grew up in Southeast Oakville, builder lots there, you need at least $2 million to buy a builder lot. I come into Burlington and you can buy a beautiful building lot for under $1 million, right? So, and it's really not that far down a drive. When I'm going from Southeast Oakville to Southeast Burlington, maybe I'm taking New Street and Rebecca. Maybe I'm just going along Lakeshore. Heaven forbid, I got to jump on the QEW and then route around the service roads. But that's what I love about real estate, is helping people with their vision for their dreams. And I love what you said about gentrification. And, that's part of the reason I got into real estate, is to help, find those beautiful lots, and then where builders come to play.
Yeah, and you had said you talked about buying a property, renting it out for a couple of years before you build. You're going to get that a lot, and I think if you're in the neighborhood, whether you're a fan of the rebuilds or you're anti-rebuild, sometimes you get the older people that have been there for 35 years, and now all of a sudden all these big monster homes, and you're like, the area is it's terrible now. Or you're like, have they not torn down that old crap house yet? We got one on our street, this like rickety old thing that should have been torn down years ago. But, the person that owns it lives overseas in Saudi Arabia, I think, or one of the Middle Eastern countries, has no interest in keeping keeping the feel of the community, right? He's got nothing invested into the community or the street. So he just keeps trying to rent it out, and it's got like mold in it and the basement floods. And so the last people that were in there, they moved out, and we're like, okay, finally, and then all of a sudden I see for sale sign pop up, and I call the agent. I'm like, sweet, right? They're going to sell it. He's like, no, we're renovating it and we're going to lease it out. I'm like, no, but in time, so what I was going to say is you might think, okay, well, if that sells, I'd like somebody to tear it down right away and get something nice and improve the area. It takes time. Most people are likely not going to buy something and tear it down right away. There's a process involved. Furthermore, from a financing perspective, now this isn't for everybody, but from a financing perspective, they may need the property to appreciate in value so that they have the equity to draw on to do the build, right? Not everybody can drop, if you're going to buy a $1 million builder lot, not everybody can drop $1 million in cash in order to be able to then immediately start the build process, right? Because from a building perspective, oftentimes if you're going to tear down the improvement on it, then banks will oftentimes want you to own that place outright, or have a very, very, very small mortgage so that you can do the construction draw, and they will use 50% of the equity in the land in order to be able to use that as collateral for the building process, right? So, if you're ever wondering why somebody buys something and then sits on it for 4 years before they do anything with it, that's generally why, right? You got to do that. And so, and again, so for listeners that might want to go down that road, they might want to buy something, a small bungalow on a 60 by 100 foot lot that could house a 4,000 square foot house or more. That could be an option for you. Yeah, you might be negative cash flow at the beginning for a bit. You might lose, I don't know, $500 a month to carry it, but you can still have, a good chunk of your mortgage paid for by renting out the bungalow. Or I think what you had said as well is potentially renovate it into a duplex. Now you're getting more cash flow. You got to put some more money into it as well. But if it's going to be a 4 or 5 year project, listen, the fact of the matter is that investment real estate, it's not a short-term game, right? It's a long-term game. You're in it for, ideally 5+ years before you're going to really maximize your return.
And for all you environmentalists out there, I like to think sometimes we're environmentally friendly here with what we're looking at long-term. New construction is arguably one of the worst things in terms of filling up our dumps. So I got to go back to my roots. I grew up in construction restoration. Building up on a home, you can do some beautiful things with bungalows and side splits to build up on them and make them absolutely gorgeous homes. Pinning a basement, and that's a whole different issue. So if you want that 9-10 foot ceilings in the basement, you're never going to get that. You're going to need to go the route of a new build. Making sure, I think I use the term like subdivision covenants, where consistency of style of homes in a neighborhood, right? And you kind of touched on this. Please, 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 people, when you're building your homes, respect the tradition and the look of the neighborhood. And I've got no issues with flat roofs and contemporary homes. Call me a little bit more of a traditionalist, but I do really have a love for contemporary styles of architecture. But I think that we need to just be consistent and have a look where, make sure you're using an architecture of someone with style, that you can have homes that don't stand out like a sore thumb in your neighborhood. Please, please, please don't do that. But, new construction, it does put a lot into our dumps, right? So do we have aspirations of building dream homes? Of course we do. But there are ways around it that are more cost effective and more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, that's a good point, which I admittedly didn't really think about too much. You're going to tear down a house and you're going to, bulldozer's going to come along. They're going to rip down the house. They're going to truck it away in dump trucks. Especially nowadays with the cost of lumber. There's nothing wrong with that wood that's in there. It's really too bad. And it might just be one of those, like, the cost of labor to do it versus the cost of just, getting the wood. But, it's almost too bad that it wasn't that the construction the demolition process, I apologize, isn't more efficient, in that rather than just taking something down and breaking all the wood, snapping it, take it apart, right? Maybe you got to Sawzall it, maybe you're not going to take out every screw and every nail. Maybe you do have to, cut it up. But I almost feel like you could go into a house, especially these older ones that had big, proper 2x4s and proper 2x6s, et cetera, right?
Reclaim some beautiful brick, right?
Yeah, all that stuff.
Materials there that can be reused. If not for you, then definitely for somebody else there, right? We have Restore, we have all these other resources. So I'm glad that we brought this up. It is giving back, right? What's the what is
maybe that's a business model for someone.
Give a hand up, not a handout. I think that's their slogan, something along those lines. So there's a lot of cool materials. Windows, right? There's these big, beautiful windows that can be reused somewhere else. And maybe for these future projects like Habitat, maybe you and I should put on a hard hat one day and go out to do a little work with Habitat for Humanity. I don't think that's a bad idea.
No, I actually, I missed one of the last ones that I did in Milton. I did it a few years ago. I missed it by like a week or something like that. I was planning on doing it, but I don't know. Just, I guess the stars didn't align that time. I think I'd put my application in, or maybe I saw it and it was like the cutoff date is such and such, and it was like I had just missed it. But anyways,
I did one to Oakville. I think it was my second year in real estate. So we're probably going back around 10 years from now. It was like 2010, 2011. There was one down in the Dorval area that I went and did for a day. And that was a great experience. And it's one of the things I liked about it the most is just everybody was so willing and helping. And it's a cool experience to volunteer and to give back. Yeah, and to learn something too. For if you don't have a lot of experience with construction, there's a lot of amazing people that go onto those sites that have a wealth of knowledge and they want to give back and they want to teach. So heaven forbid, if you're out there and you're in high school and you've got a passion for real estate or construction, well, what better thing to do than to go and give some hours to Habitat for Humanity or for one of these other organizations that are giving a hand up, not a handout.
well, for sure. And, life's about like connections, if you were to do that, again, think about the long-term effect of it, right? Long-term benefit rather of a good relationship, right? Yeah, you're going to donate some of your hours, but again, like to your point, if you're a teenager in high school, you have to have your 40 hours of volunteer service, right? So go do that, and then heck, maybe you're half decent at it, or maybe you're good at swinging a hammer and you're like, hey, maybe I want to get into carpentry or, some type of construction, or maybe you love the architecture and you're like, I end up, meeting the architect or design person. You're in the final stages and you meet the interior designer, and that's what you get into. Like maybe you meet a real estate agent and you get into real estate. There's any number of kind of spin-offs or of, careers within the real estate world. Right.
That's awesome. I mean, the fact that you can go out and you can learn a trade, and maybe you're thinking, yeah, I want to work in the trades, and you do that for a little bit and realize, you know what, it's not what I want to do, but at least I had that experience. I learned from that and I want to go in this direction. So it's as you think about all the jobs that you and I have had to get us to where we are today. And as you go through your life experiences and you make those connections, it's going to just give you a different outlook, and all those experiences add up.
For sure. So we did go off topic again. It's not surprising. So you want to kind of wrap back around again. So let's go back to, we touched on kind of like areas, gentrification, transportation. So, you talked about KWC, we talked about like trains, right? All that kind of stuff. The 401 is widening. It's coming through Milton right now. The widening is starting. Bridges are being widened, all that kind of stuff. The Tremaine interchange is going to be happening in the next couple of years, but that widening is going to be going all the way out to KWC. That will improve traffic flow going along the 401, which will decrease speed. Like one of the things that we talk about in the real estate world all the time, as far as looking for a property, gone are the days of saying I want to be within 20 kilometers or 50 kilometers of work. We don't talk like that. We say I want to be within 25 minutes, a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. I'm okay with an hour drive. I'm okay with a 45-minute drive, right? That's the way we think. So if you're going to spend an hour on a back road going 60 to 70 kilometers an hour or 80 kilometers an hour, whatever, or you're going to spend an hour on a 401 series highway where you're going 100, 120, naturally you're going to go a lot further going at a higher speed, right? And so the idea there is as the 401 expands, the slowdowns will lessen, because you won't have as quite the congestion of all the cars in a small area. You can widen out the vehicle traffic, right, and hopefully maintain a higher speed, a higher average speed, we'll call that, right? So that's as far as the 401 goes. However, you go into a city and we talk about light rail transit, right? So the ION, which is what the which is what the KWC, or actually it's not into Cambridge yet, but the Kitchener-Waterloo Light Rail Transit is called, is, we'll right now connects those two cities, and in future we'll go down into connect into Cambridge as well, right? So that improves commuting time, right? Especially for anybody working along that or close to it, right? So you don't have to get in your car, drive over here, find parking, all that kind of stuff. You just, walk to the LRT, jump on, you're a few stops away, whatever. Maybe you live in South Kitchener and you work up in Waterloo, right? That'll save you, maybe you only have to have one car instead of two cars, or maybe it'll save you parking, or it'll just save you gas, or it'll save you just kind of navigating through, so, light rail transit, whether it's a subway or it's an above ground, it improves movement of people, right? And the speed at which we move around. All those things increase real estate values. There was a study done in the 90s, I think it was, and I apologize again, I think it was San Diego, or anyways, it was a US city, and they did a study on real estate around their subway. Or their light rail transit, whatever it was. But the fact of the matter is, within an 800-meter radius of subway stops or light rail transit stops, or actually they even extended to highway stops, highway interchanges, I apologize, the real estate prices increased 10% faster or more, and decreased 10% less in a pullback, right? So when real estate markets came down, they came down 10% less, right? So they didn't come down as much. And furthermore, when real estate prices went up, they went up faster and went up higher or more, right? So ideally, people want to be close to transit. They don't want to like drive your 45 minutes, right? I mean, okay, let's look at Milton as an example. The number of times that we talk about people, because we're still a bedroom community in all reality, people that work in Mississauga or Toronto, they get off at the 401 at James Snow or 25 right now, and they're like, okay, I'm home. But no, you still have another 15 minutes snaking through town, right? So now your 45-minute commute is actually an hour commute, right? If you were just, bam, right on there. You think of the people that just jump onto the GO train and then they're downtown, and they come back. Yeah, it's an hour, but, kind of that is what it is, right? It's still an hour, it may be more as you kind of snake your way going through everything as well with the car.
Where investors need to go?
Hey?
Do you know where investors need to go?
Are you asking me, or is this like a prelude to you have the answer?
It's 100% a prelude to it. They need to go near the GO station. There's a lot of new train stops that are going out. What we've seen with Aldershot Centennial as we go further west. And that is a great place for investors to look for the future infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right. You look at that. And then obviously there's subways with Metrolinx. They're going to be improving their systems in the city. I'm going to make a couple complaints right now.
Do it. We haven't complained on this show much.
No, I'm really pissed off at what they did at the Ford Drive, the 403, the split with the QEW there. I am on that all the time. And I thought by widening the roads, they were going to make it a little bit easier for traffic flow. They totally botched that badly. That is not, I was not impressed with how that went at all. And I live in downtown Burlington, and there's a huge amount of new condos coming. And I fear for the future of, we need like LTR, like in downtown Burlington, because with all those condos coming in, and let's face it, we all like to drive cars, there's going to be an issue with transportation from the downtown core of Burlington getting out, and there's nothing that I love more about Burlington than that beautiful downtown core on Brant Street down by Spencer Smith Park.
Absolutely.
So there's a couple, I'm not the biggest complainer out there, but those are two things that I got to tell you, they give me a little bit of a, a little twitch. So I had thanks. That's all good. I had to get that out. So.
I'm drinking over here. I guess you could go on and on and on about all those kinds of things. And you talked about population density, or you talked about, sorry, I apologize. You talked about lots of condos coming, right? That's increased population density. We've got issues here in Milton as well, where builders, and this is where I get into like, the political will and, whether or not the bullet train is actually going to come and all that kind of stuff. It's not, unless it's a private venture. That
I think it's going to have to be public and private. I think,
and that will just never work, because no investor is going to say, yeah, I'm going to hand over. Let's partner with the government.
What if they get dividends?
Actually, that totally reminds me. That brings me back to a Dragon's Den episode years ago, where somebody had this idea of, it was clean energy. And ultimately, I think they were on the East Coast, if I remember correctly, but ultimately they wanted to use the tide, and they wanted to build these massive kind of turbines with just the ocean tide, like moving these turbines as the ocean comes in and out. Right. And of course it was, who's the mouthpiece on that?
O'Leary?
O'Leary. Yeah. So, it was something along the lines of like, blah, blah, blah. And the pitcher was going on. He's like, and we're going to do this with the government. And O'Leary just went on this tangent about how, like, I'm not going anywhere near the government, right? Because they're all incompetent, and they all have their own agendas, and they all have their own red tape, and they all have their own
timeline. Like, yeah.
Their own, like, well, I want it to be my way. Right. And they've got no qualms, just blowing an investor's money who's in it to invest, get the project done, get it up in running, and get a return on my investment. No, our government, let's have another committee meeting. Let's have another panel. Let's discuss it further. Let's figure out whose name's going to go on it. Let's figure out, is it 3 millimeters or 5 millimeters? Right. We'll reconvene next year. Right. Like, no. It's just
at the next meeting, right? At the next council meeting in 4 months from now.
Exactly, right? No, it'll never. And that's why I don't think the bullet train will ever happen. It's a nice idea. And I think it would be very needed almost. And I don't know if it's needed necessarily, but like one of those things that would improve transportation, all that kind of stuff. Imagine being able to like work in Windsor.
Party's got to own it and take that stance, and then they just got to get it done somehow. And
yeah, but then you've got all these surveys, all these environmental studies, all the this, all the that, and then inevitably you're going to go through someone. It's going to land is going to have to be expropriated.
I got the solution. Okay, this is how the train's going to look. Okay, it's going to go right across Lake Ontario. We're going to take out that whole, it's just going to go across the water. It's going to be, 15, 20 feet high. Make sure that it's all done, like structural engineers and properly. And then there's just going to be little sectors that come off, like just little feet off into the infrastructure of those communities, right? So there could be 5 or 6 lines.
And nobody is going to complain about building a train over Lake Ontario. Not one person, especially nobody that lives down at the waterfront. Right? Nobody that's going to have their house taken down.
It's something people to look at when they're sitting in their condos and they got nothing better to do than watch trains go by.
That's the worst idea I've ever heard.
I thought it was pretty good.
I thought you were going to say at least go under or something like that. Go under Lake Ontario. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Well, I like what you were saying about Elon Musk in terms of like boring underground, and maybe that is maybe that's a better option, is we just have the underground tunnel. And then how long is that going to take?
Watch a is it Finland or Norway? Norway's on the coast of Scandinavia, right? So I'm pretty sure it's Norway, and they've got all these inlets, and tourism goes all around the coast. But in order to be able to get from one city to the other, you got to go drive all around the inlet to get over here, and then you can drive across, and you got to go all around the inlet. So they're building this massive tunnel, and it'll go underground through stuff, and then under the water and through all the inlets, right? To basically have one fluid way of kind of just going all along the coast, right? Do something like that. And I can't remember how many billions and billions of dollars it's going to cost them. But it's an investment into tourism and trade and commerce all around there, and just natural just commuting, just the public being able to commute, and cutting a 4-hour drive to 45 minutes because you don't have to drive around the inlet all the time, right?
Another thing we've talked on the 413. I think back to like 10 years ago when approximately when the Red Hill was highway was built in Hamilton. Brilliant. You know, when you used to have to drive around Hamilton, that was ridiculous. Going from north to south Hamilton, such a waste of time.
Yeah.
That Red Hill, I mean, and I think that is part of the reason that Hamilton had such a boom. We talk about the infrastructure, and that's been a big segment of our show today, is with the expansion of the 401, with maybe the future of the 413 highway, our super cool underground tunnels, and these bullet trains going across Lake Ontario. I mean, without joking, it is all about logistics. It's about saving time and energy. And I think it's a good time to wrap around to like where we started with this in terms of, yeah, we've opened our eyes over the last year during this pandemic to the chance where we realize what's a little bit more important. Like, we're not commuting and having to go through the hustle and bustle of fighting traffic and that road rage and those things that we can leave behind. And we can say, hey, oh, this is better for our environment. Oh, I'm being more efficient. Oh, I'm getting more rest. I have a better quality of life, more time with my family. Who doesn't want these things? Right?
Yeah, well, yes. You're talking about where you're moving, or we're talking about being in the pandemic?
I was just talking about time and energy, and how, like, if you think about logistics and traffic, I know I touched on a whole bunch of bases there. You got to stay with me here.
Oh, I was with you. I was with you. My only thing that jumped up was, depression is up right now, right? Being quarantined, being locked down.
For sure.
Like depression is certainly up.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's different. Everyone's handling it a little bit different. Maybe a depression would be higher in some people if they didn't have the extra time at home, and because they didn't move, or because they moved, right? So a lot of people are like, here in Milton, a lot of people are moving out to Guelph or Kitchener, Cambridge, because you can get that big yard out there and not have to increase your mortgage, right? Or you increase a little bit, right? Like it's one of, generally speaking, it's like for the same price you can get something bigger, or you can get the same thing you have and decrease your mortgage, right? And so some people are saying, I can decrease my mortgage substantially. I can save on the cost of home ownership, or, like I said, increase the size of the house for the same cost and move out that way and get the pool, get the big backyard, right? Stuff that you can't afford to have in Milton, or you don't have the size, because without going on another tangent, right? The stuff that the big backyards with the pools right now are just like anybody that has that. We literally just listed a property today, a beautiful property listed at 2.1 million. And I have it listed just at the beginning of this show. And I think, just looking here, my chime has been going off as showings have been booked. I think I've got 10 showings booked on it already, and we've only been on the market for not even an hour. It's 4,000 square feet, a little bit over 4,000 square feet. 5 bedrooms upstairs, two with 3 washrooms. So 2 Jack and Jills, which, if you're not familiar with the Jack and Jill, it's an ensuite that 2 bedrooms share. So of the 4 bedrooms, each of them share a washroom. Master ensuite, of course. Fully finished basement. Big lookout windows in the basement as well. Surround sound. The kitchen is a custom walnut kitchen, which extends down to a kind of like a bar in the basement. So it's got a fridge and a dishwasher down there, and a big pantry. So the walnut cabinetry is all down there as well. Another a 4th washroom in the basement. Of course, the main floor has a powder room. Like tons of storage. One of the things that people often lose when they finish a basement is storage, and like, I got nowhere to put stuff. Tons of storage still. A large room that they're using as a classroom right now. So it's all set up like a classroom. However, could be a gym, could be an office, could be another living space for someone like an in-law, whatever. If you have the full basement, it's on a pie-shaped lot that backs onto a ravine and a large pond. So it's big. So it's a big pie-shaped, kind of diamond-shaped lot. Beautiful pool, beautifully landscaped in there with like a pergola, like a structure, full kind of gazebo pergola kind of thing. Hedges, there's like these I can't remember what the name of the grasses are called off the top of my head right now, but these tall grasses that when the wind blows you have that rustling sound. Like it's something else. It's next level, right? It's the kind of stuff that you're like, this is the house for me, right? Anyways, it's beautiful. It's just stunning. So unfortunately, by the time you hear this, it's going to be gone. But look it up, 435 wetlaufer.ca. And Wetlaufer is WETTLAUFER.ca. You'll see the pictures of what you could have had if you had been paying attention and not just waited till this show.
Way to paint a picture there. Andrew Roach, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why you want to contact him. And if you're up in Milton, Kitchener-Waterloo region as your local realtor. Thank you.
It's stunning. Yeah, thanks.
That's why we all dream, and we did this show as part 2 of our series for the investment series. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm Ross Bridges here with Andrew Roach, helping you find your way home.